What's going on, everybody? This is Snowman. Hey, I had so much fun going back and reviewing old videos a few weeks ago and just kind of messing with the unstructured content and, you know, the less scripted nature of it, and I decided to turn it into a series. So welcome to SnoStorm. This is where we're going to kind of brainstorm and break down video ideas that just for whatever reason couldn't make the main channel, whether it just didn't fit the mold of a typical gaming video or I just scrapped the idea for whatever reason. And all the while we're going to be playing some games. So today we're going to be playing Donkey Kong Country 2 while we just break down and hang out together some video ideas. So let's do that. So just a fun fact about the Snowman Gaming channel is I've actually only scrapped one video idea once it got past the scripting phase. I made a script, this was back in like 2020, on Metroidvanias and backtracking, and I really liked the idea, and I think it was coming together. I did a full script, I edited it a few times, you know, made a final draft, but then just for whatever reason, I didn't think it had just the regular oomph of a Snowman video, where just, I don't know, it wasn't coming together. I didn't like the direction it was taking, or I just didn't have enough good examples about it. What I remember is I set up like 4 quadrants where it was like, if a Metroidvania has smooth movement and fast travel, and then the 4 quadrants are like if it has really, really good movement and good fast travel, or like no, like slow movement and bad fast travel, and then there's kind of like the 4 quadrants in between, and just kind of breaking down like what games fit into each category. I don't know, it's an interesting idea, but I don't think it actually just panned out into something I was interested in or proud of, or that I felt like it would have explained my points well, so I ended up scrapping it. But that's the only time I've ever scrapped a video, once I actually had a full script made, but I didn't even start editing it or putting, you know, footage together or anything like that. So I know a lot of creators like will scrap videos really late into their video production, and that can feel really disheartening. I've actually never had the, you know, bad experience of doing that, which is nice. So anyway, let's talk about some of the other video ideas that just wouldn't really fit in the channel, because again, like, it's very gaming focused. There was a time where I was experimenting with trying out something called good film design, where I could talk about TV and movies, and just, you know, the pun of good game design, and it probably like could have worked, but you know, you as a creator, you got to consider all the aspects of, like, you know, will this mess up my channel where I'm splitting kind of the 2 audiences too, and there's all that stuff you got to consider. Anyway, I had some ideas for like movies and TV, but again, they just didn't like fully flesh out. The first one I ever wanted to do was actually the movie Signs, the M. Night Shyamalan movie. I don't know why that was what I wanted to be my very first one into that foray, but I just really like the movie Signs. I think it's a really good suspense film. I like, you know, all the characters in it. I don't really remember much, if anything, about my idea for that or the script. There's one thing that I remember, and it's really weird. I just remember there's a scene where Mel Gibson's on the couch, and half of his face is really dark, and half of his face is light, and I was just like, at the time, I was like, oh, that's really mind-blowing. It's like explaining his, like, 2 sides that he has to fight, of like the darkness of him, of losing his wife, and then having to hold it all together and be like a you know, man of faith and all that stuff. So I don't know if that was even enough to pull it into a full video, but it was definitely interesting to think about, and I really almost pulled the trigger on that and started good film design. And that would have been my first one, was a movie on Signs. Another one that I really, again, considered is the TV show American Vandal. I don't know if anyone's ever seen the show American Vandal. It's probably one of the most underrated shows out there. It's on Netflix. It only had 2 seasons, and really, especially the first season was really good. That was my favorite, was the first season. It's absolutely hilarious. It's kind of like a mockumentary of those, like, How to Get Away with Murder style, you know, Netflix documentaries. And so it's very serious tone, but then the humor and topic is like really funny, of just like a guy that's drawing profane things on his school teachers' parking lot cars. And that was a weird sentence. Anyway, it's very funny. It's an incredible show, and I love just the parody of it, the parody of the documentary style. And it's like, the premise is it's like 2 students that are filming the documentary, and so it's like, it's kind of in-world, but it's just a really creative idea. It does a really good job of doing the parody and just meshing the humor together as well. There's a fun fact for you. Here's a shortcut. Skip the whole level. But anyway, I think there were 3 aspects I wanted to break down for that. One, of just how it's a really good parody and just the comedy aspect of it, melding that all together. But second, it actually is like a really good mystery, and like they start uncovering new things. It picks up a lot near the end. There's different elements you're actually trying to figure out. It's like a whodunit mystery, and like, I don't know, it's really interesting how it actually was like really interesting to watch, even though the subject matter was very like potty humor. And then I think the third aspect that I really liked is it actually is a show that's really good at just expressing like teen culture and how like kids interact and stuff. Like it might not be anymore, just being several years removed from it, but like I thought just like the way they used like technology and like Snapchat and stuff, and it was also just like I hadn't really seen something like that. Or like the movie 8th Grade by Bo Burnham is another one that does that, where it actually, I felt like, just did a good job of showing like young culture and it didn't feel like old executives trying to relate to young people, but like actually doing it really well. So there were kind of like three aspects of American Vandal that I thought made it good film design, quote unquote, that was more than just your typical movie or show, and I just really enjoyed it. So that was another one that I, again, really considered. I started like it wasn't an actual script, it was just like an outline of ideas of it that I wanted to do. Didn't actually end up doing it, but there's a lot of like TV and movies that I wanted to do. In fact, ever since then, and I've had just like little ideas that I've always wanted to kind of pursue. One was Succession. Succession was a huge show that I loved when that was out. I was all in on that show. And what if I were to do a video topic on the show Succession, what I would have talked about is how the music in Succession is like the main character. The actual main character of Succession is the music. And I would have dived in how, if you know the theme song of Succession, right, where that's like, it's so iconic. Every time you hear the theme song, it gets stuck in your head for like a day after. It's a very good theme song, but then throughout the entire show, that same theme is, if you've seen the show, you know this, the motif is like throughout the entire show. Every time there's like a scene transition or a new character shows up, or like it moves to something else, it always does the same song basically through the entire series. And it's just the chords of that intro theme where it's like, just the dun, 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 dun. And so like it does that over and over and over again, so it gets so ingrained into your head. There is a really good video by the composer of the show Succession where he kind of breaks down like how he uses it throughout the show, and that's also really informative. I really like that. I'll put that in the description. But again, if I were to do a video on that, I especially would focus on the final season. Whoops. Because there's a couple moments in the final season where it really all culminates. And so, I mean, I guess technically spoiler warning if you're wanting to watch Succession, but there's a bit in the 4th season where there's a scene on the boat. I won't tell you what happens, but it's obviously a very impactful episode where they're all on a ship together, a cruise ship. And what is actually so interesting about that scene is there is no music. They purposefully like take the music away. The whole show has been using music the whole time. And in this really important moment for the family, there's stuff going on. They're on the phones hearing information. It's silence. And it's supposed to just feel so real and visceral. And that is really impactful of like a time of not using the music. But then also just the final episode. There's a final montage basically at the very end of the final episode where you just kind of see everything that happens to all the characters. And the use of music in it is just unbelievable. I don't know if I've ever seen a show where just the music does such a crazy job of telling the story. Like there's a scene of Shiv and Tom in the car and they're holding hands and you're just like, wondering about their relationship, and the music is playing, and then the scene just like holds. It continues on. The music feels like it hits a beat and it should stop, but then it just keeps going, and you just get to like sit in their situation for like longer than normal, and it's very uncomfortable. And there's a final scene with the main guy where he's just like looking out on the ocean, and just, I don't know, it almost like moved me to tears. The song that's just playing there, the final scene is just absolutely incredible. The use of music in Succession is maybe the best I've ever seen in a show, of using its score to the point where it felt like it was a character in the show. And so, I don't know, just can't recommend that show enough. Again, I probably wouldn't make it into a full video, but if I did, that's what I would cover. There's so many TV shows and movies that, again, if I were to do that, as maybe I'd make a separate channel, but it's like that's a lot of work. And I'm not like that super passionate about to actually do it, but I just have these ideas. Like, I love the show Nathan For You. But honestly, any show that like uses real life reactions of people. So I'm talking Jury Duty is a great show. Both seasons, the new one just came out. They're incredible. Nirvana, the band, the show. Anything that like uses real people and real reactions and kind of works that into the magic of the show. I find that really fascinating. I mean, even back in like Borat, right? Like part of what makes Borat fun is that it's real people and getting real reactions. And those types of shows I feel like have really changed the game in terms of using that trope. You know, it's like Candid Camera, right? But like Jury Duty, what it does is it puts the main character, the person they're playing the prank on, it makes them be the hero in these stories. And they do give them like money at the end and stuff, but like to me that's actually less important than, I don't know, they never make fun of the person they're pulling the prank on. They just put them in these crazy situations and try to set them up to be the hero, the person that like actually does the right thing. And I don't know, if you've never watched it, I recommend both seasons incredibly. Jury Duty's great. Nathan For You is just so clever, and The Rehearsal. There's a period where I watched Rehearsal season 2, and I watched the movie Friendship, the Tim Robinson movie. And I came away from that week feeling like I had seen two pieces of media that they'd done things that I'd never seen in movie or film before. They're just so incredible. Like The Rehearsal is so uncomfortable in its own way, but season 2 specifically just like kind of pulls something off that I never thought would be possible. Tim Robinson, you know, I Think You Should Leave, of course, right? That could be its own thing, talking about how it's kind of made its own form of humor and comedy that wasn't ever really popular or a thing before. That could be its whole video topic as well. I mean, again, there's just so much stuff. I love Nathan Fielder and all that he does too. Nathan For You is basically a perfect show. It's also phenomenal. Really, this has just become me like recommending stuff to you. Just go check out these things, because I probably won't do videos on them, but that's why we're doing this video, where it's like I get to at least talk about it, how much I really enjoyed it. And the last thing isn't a show or a movie or TV show, but Hot Ones. I would want to talk about Hot Ones. And the thing I would want to talk about Hot Ones is not about the hot wings at all, which is the gimmick that draws people in. But some of you might remember, do you guys remember a show called Hot Pepper Gaming on YouTube? They did this hot sauce stuff like way before Sean Evans and Hot Ones. So Hot Pepper Gaming was a YouTube show where they ate a really spicy pepper and then reviewed a video game. And it never really took off, but it was really entertaining. But the thing that sets Hot Ones different actually has nothing to do with that. The like hot sauce and the wings and stuff. That's just, that gets you in the door. That's the like catch you, you know, the thing that hooks you. But what actually draws you in and basically what makes you stay, to me, is Sean Evans. And there's a few reasons for that. One, it's like it's very clear the research they put into their show. They, you know, research their guests, and they prepare ahead of time to the point where it's become like a meme, where every time the guest is like, how'd you know that? How'd you know that thing from my childhood? They do their research. It's not just your typical junket interview. But then also, Sean Evans is, of course, he's a likable host, but if you have watched it a lot, you've noticed this, where he will, he matches the experience of the other person. If they go back for a second bite of the wing, he does too, even if it's like a really hot sauce. If they go for the milk, he goes for the milk. If they don't go for the milk, he doesn't go for the milk either. He matches their experience, and he tries to like build this aura between them, and it just makes this connection that would totally be impossible in like a typical, you know, late night interview. Like basically, if I were to do a video on Hot Ones, it would be how it has destroyed and changed late night forever. Like just your basic interview stuff. The ways you would see celebrities be interviewed in the last 20 years is late night TV, and that's pretty much all you would see. Now, obviously, there's a lot of interview press junket stuff when people have films or movies or TV shows, but like, uh-oh, am I dead? I hope I'm not dead. Uh-oh, oh, that was close. Basically, like, it has changed the game entirely, and the way that not only can you interact with seeing celebrity interviews and stuff is totally different, because think about all the other shows that have spawned since Hot Ones, right? There's like Chicken Shop Date, there's Caleb Presley, The Sunday Conversation. There's so many things that are just kind of like out there and wacky weird, and I think it also makes it more interesting for the celebrities themselves. It's not just like, oh, I have to do another interview, talk about what it's like working with Nicolas Cage. Like, you know, it's like, no, I'm going to talk about like what you did in high school. Like, what was it like being in, you know, this production of this, or like working at this shop? And they're always impressed, and it like, makes them uncomfortable a little bit, where it's like, whoa, this isn't like your typical interview, but I think it's way more enjoyable, and it makes it a more memorable experience even for the guests, and it shows, and I think it just makes the content way more enjoyable. So the point just being, like, I think it's changed how we interact with media. Like, it's hard to say when there's a show that is that impactful, But I do think Hot Ones kind of like set the tone for the future of just what it looks like to interview people in general, because it's just a totally different type of show of what you would typically see. Anyway, you know, that's just me rambling about some video ideas. I don't know. Tell me if this is something that interests you and we can do more stuff like this in the future. I just thought it's fun to kind of like hang out and play a game together, and then also just go through stuff that wouldn't fit as like a fully scripted video, but I still want to talk about them. I have a lot more ideas for stuff like this, so even feel free to tell me in the comments if there's something that you'd be interested in seeing in the future too that I talk about. I'm also interested in doing that. So thanks for hanging with me. I'll see you on the next one. It's been fun. Stay frosty, my friends.